Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and joining me to my side, a very good friend, good pal, my colleague, a partner in crime, the 1B or 1A. I'm not sure which of us there are, but my number one pal here. There's a 1C floating around somewhere here, too, also, Brian. But it was Mr. Brian E. Roach. It could be 1E. Brian E. 1B. 1B. You're Brian.
I really doesn't matter. Just don't call me Michael Jackson.
We were just off the air. He was singing Bad Company, and I say that singing lightly with the air quotes.
What are you talking about? I can sing very greatly. I just can't. No. Okay, I'm bad. You're right.
I have like pets, aminals over here, or the animals. I always say aminals to screw with my kid. But yeah, they're not liking all that that's going on right now. So
no one is liking all that is going on right now. No one enjoyed that moment. And you know what's frightening is not really in high school, but right out of high school when I was in a band in Ohio and I sang, and I can't sing, and maybe that's why we didn't get famous.
Oh yeah, so you weren't one of the like Ohio players, were you? I don't think you were.
The Ohio Players bus used to park right outside my grade school.
No way, man.
Yeah, absolutely. The Ohio Players were from Dayton, man. That's my hometown. Those are my boys. We used to jam to the Ohio Players. Fire!
Man, and you know what? We've been playing around with some different tricks and stuff here. Hopefully, we just didn't blow anyone's speakers out, and now we're going to owe someone the 2%ers that are still left already 3 minutes into the show, 2 minutes into the show, Brian. But
as soon as I started singing, they all left.
You know what? We've got something right around the corner. Less than a week from now, we will know who the Steelers' first-round pick is, and I guess we have a question that's on our brain. Even though you said Devontae Wyatt, no matter what, with the insanity that we did, we got to ask the question.
Change my mind on that, though.
Yeah, you could change your mind, but now we're going to try and, I guess, figure out, with all of these visits and everything else that's going on with the Steelers, they hired an assistant quarterback coach. Which, I don't know, man. The signs are pointing towards taking a quarterback, but I'm wondering if they're just blowing smoke at people, or are we going to actually see it pick 20? Or are we going to see something crazy? Kevin Colbert gives up half the farm like you just did, and then they take a quarterback on Thursday. First round, well, maybe even second round. I mean, that's possible. We don't know where these guys are going to go, but we can certainly take a look and find out.
Absolutely. I said that I may be changing my mind, not because I don't want Devontae Wyatt, but there's some innuendo about I don't know. I haven't verified any of the rumors, but if any of the stuff that's been floating around on our back channels is true, then he ain't gonna be the pick.
Yeah, and it has to deal with off field, which could drop his stock pretty much for anyone. And we know that we saw what happened with like guys like Randy Gregory before. And I mean, he dropped, I think he still went second round to the Cowboys, still took the chance on him, and he just flew the coop because he didn't like something in the contract. But it's certainly something that's a question on our mind. And when we take a look at, well, let's see, the Steelers have pretty much visited everyone and their brother, except for, I think there's just one guy here that they haven't. Have you heard of this Cole Kelly guy by any chance? I got to see if I could pull up. Okay, I'm going to see if I could pull up a picture of good old Cole Kelly here in a second. But look him up. It's Louisiana something or other. Let me find him. He transferred from Arkansas. He was just on Sirius XM in the morning, and that's why I was looking at Southeastern Louisiana University. And dude is 6'7", 260 pounds. I mean,
he's a quarterback?
And he's a quarterback.
Holy crap.
Yes. He kind of looks like Presley Harvin did.
I was going to say, is this our big fat quarterback to go with our big fat punter?
Just about. And as luck would have it, I don't have that image just handy just yet. But
Tell me he runs a 4.4.
I don't know what he runs. I didn't actually take a look at his numbers. He was at the combine though. He was invited, and I was kind of curious because you talk about Big Ben. The only visit I think he's actually had though is with the New Orleans Saints, and that's because he's considered a local visit, which that makes a ton of sense. Yep. So let's see. I may have our guy up here any second here. Let's see. You're going to see him. You're going to be like, holy cow. I know. It's like, how did we miss this guy amidst all the different names and all the different, we know Mike Tomlin likes his big body guys. This guy, look at him. He looks like Mike Glennon. He's just like, he's not like, you'd think 260, but he's also 6'7". So
a big dude. But I mean, he doesn't really remind me of Presley. Not like, at least in that picture,
well, no,
he doesn't look like our big back quarterback.
Presley's shorter.
Yeah.
And still the same weight.
Yeah. So
I mean, that guy is 6'7", so he's got about another half foot on Harvin in order to stretch that mass out along his frame. But
interesting. Is he any good?
You know what? He put up some numbers. Let's take a look. I'm trying to find his Southeast Louisiana 13 games played. No, we don't want 2019. Sorry. 9 games played. So he has 29 games that he's appeared in over the various part of his career. And I know he transferred. So let's see here. We've got 2021 or 2020 and then 21. So he was 305, 69% completion percentage for 2,662 yards, 18 TDs, and 4 picks. And then you got last year, he tore it up, 388 pass attempts, completed 73% for 36-34, 31 touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions. So I understand he's not playing.
There's your next Tom Brady, 6th round pick. Nobody wanted him. There he is, next Tom Brady.
Yeah, and what more like, so he's the Southland Conference Offensive Player of the Year in 2020, FCS First Team All-America in 2020 and 2021, and he got the Walter Payton Award for like the last. It's tough because you know how the FCS thing operated last year, where they played like that spring season. So like somebody like Trey Lance didn't end up playing at all. And then some of the guys that were around, they almost played like twice in the same season. It's really weird how that overlapped, all because of all the COVID things, but they delayed the season and ended up playing later. But I thought I would just bring them up. I know that they visited with, was it South Dakota State? And I got to look him up too. Chris Oladokin. Yes, SDSU, which I believe are the Jackrabbits. Gojacks.com. So that looks, this is always fun. I like going on these little websites. Let's see what we might have for him. 6'2", 195. And statistically, we got his 2021 stats, cumulative, 384 attempts. He threw 25 TDs, 7 picks for 3,164 yards. And the Steelers actually looked into and inquired about him, too. You never know. Could be somebody that pops in there as a camp arm. And I believe he's also very much mobile, too, rushing-wise. Let's see, 73 attempts, 166 yards, not a big gainer, 2 touchdowns, but he can move a little bit as necessary. So, but these aren't first-round picks. These aren't Thursday guys we're talking about. These might not even be Saturday guys.
I just want to be clear about one thing. I've held this up twice, but you didn't get to see it. So
my bad.
I just want to be clear that when I was talking about the 6'7" guy, this was in play.
Yeah, but yeah, so's this guy right here. I got the hashtag. I just wiped off the grown-ass man, but he's a grown-ass man just by physical traits.
Yeah, that's big boy.
The hashtag. We're going to be doing some more hashtagging. Brian, I didn't even have it. I had you up on the screen to show off your little thing. I'm going to show off the hashtag there. My bad. Because you know what? You made me do that. So anyways,
very good.
Anyways, we've got some picks and stuff. I was trying to figure out, like, in the grand scheme of things, like Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be on the clock first. And
yes,
we still don't know what they're going to do. I would assume if they don't take Aiden Hutchinson and they take Icky, was it Okwanu? Is that how you say his name? I think I know Icky's not really his first name either. It's a nickname.
Really?
But
you're asking me how to pronounce somebody's name.
Really? I shouldn't ask you that. But
Terrible.
I'm thinking if Aiden Hutchinson isn't the first player off the board, what do the Lions do at 2? There's a little bit of smoke about whether or not the Lions would jump at one of the quarterbacks that are available. Kind of reminds me of the Bears going for Mitchell Trubisky, number 2 overall a few years ago, or who's another one? Like Daniel Jones going like 5 or 6 to the Giants. Like that could be possible as well. I'm wondering if they would do it.
I don't think so. This is my overall view. Are any of these quarterbacks game changers in your mind that are on the boards this year? Are any of these guys right off the bat going to be game changers for you?
To be completely honest, I don't believe so. I don't believe, especially that high. I don't know that I would necessarily put them into. I'm really struggling if this is like the year where EJ Manuel was like the first round pick for the Buffalo Bills, and you know how that turned out. And Geno Smith fell into the second round, and I mentioned this somewhere else on one of the other episodes that we had. But it's entirely plausible that we're looking at maybe no quarterbacks. Now, Maurice Jones-Drew just did a mock where he had 4 of them go. I forgot who he gave the Steelers, but I'm going to have to find that now that I brought it up. But that's kind of where I'm thinking too. You got Jared Goff. You got the Houston Texans at number 3 with Davis Mills, who they drafted last year. It's like, do they really roll with do they roll with Davis Mills? I don't know. I kind of haven't gotten any indication that maybe they would be interested in a quarterback, but everybody's been so heavy on the Steelers with the quarterback. Have you noticed that? Like, I don't even know that they've like put the Saints up there with the quarterback. Now the Panthers they have, and it's talking about Sam Darnold and Jimmy G still floating around out there, and everybody talks about the 49ers with that. Baker Mayfield not showing up to OTAs and things like that. But almost all of everything I hear with the draft, it's always Steelers. And I know that they've gone like out of their mind doing their due diligence, but I have to think that somebody else, like the Washington Commanders, okay, they went and got Carson Wentz. They're a team that went when they drafted RG3. They also drafted Kirk Cousins. They took 2 in the same season. And it's something that I think you got to look at some of the other teams. The Atlanta Falcons are picking at 8. So you got Carolina at 6. Well, let's start from the top. The Jaguars have their quarterback at number 1, right? That's not going to change. The Detroit Lions are number 2, might have a quarterback if they stick with Jared Goff and they add some other type of playmaker. Like you said, you got to get a playmaker if you're drafting this high.
Yep.
The Jets have Zach Wilson already. The Giants have Daniel Jones, but they also have a new regime. GM and coach, and they said that they're committed to him, but how committed are they? I don't know. Carolina Panthers traded for Darnold, and that didn't necessarily work out well for them. The Atlanta Falcons now dumped Matt Ryan. They signed Marcus Mariota. You hear all the terms with the Steelers and everybody else with bridge quarterback and Mitch Trubisky. Mariota, I think, isn't as good, and there's a team that could use some playmakers too. Seahawks shipped off Russell Wilson. They have Drew Lock. They have Geno Smith. They add somebody else to that mix. I don't know. The Jets are up again. The Commanders at 11. The Vikings, I think, are set. The Texans are back in this mix again at 13. So you have several of these teams with multiple picks in the top half of this draft. You get to Baltimore at 14, Eagles at 15. Now, Baltimore, I don't think they're looking at anybody. They really want to do something.
They're not drafting a quarterback.
Yeah, they want to do something with Lamar Jackson. The Eagles, Jalen Hurts. I mean, they got to the playoffs last year. I don't think that they're looking to move. The Saints, they got Jameis Winston back, but what does that really entail? He's coming off an injury. Signed a richer, all these guys signed richer contracts than Mitchell Trubisky too, which I find kind of comical in a way. So now you're down to the Chargers at 17, which have been linked as a potential trade partner with the Steelers just because the Chargers don't appear to have the same team needs. And then you have the Eagles again at 18 and the Saints once again at 19 before the Steelers are on the clock at 20. So I was mentioning Icky. I was mentioning Sauce Gardner, several edge rushers that Trayvon Walker, is it Kayvon Thibodeau? I'm trying to think of what his first name was.
I think so.
So there's three edge. You got three edge rushers. You've got an offensive tackle. So there's 4 players. There's probably Sauce Gardner mixed in there. There's like maybe your top 5 players, unless there's a surprise. I'm trying to think of some of the wide receivers, like a Garrett Wilson's probably in this top 20. Olave could possibly be in this top 20 ahead of the Steelers. So we're looking at 19 players ahead. We haven't mentioned any quarterbacks yet. I'm at 6 or 7 guys. If you throw 3 quarterbacks in, let's just say it's 3. It doesn't matter which 3, because I think Pickett is probably the head of the class, no matter how you want to view that. And then it's whoever else. Malik Willis with his maybe high ceiling, big playability, legs. Desmond Ritter. I'm not going to call him a game manager, but seems to be a very smart, intelligent guy. We don't like Sam Howell. We're not really big on Matt Corral, but could one of them sneak in as maybe somebody likes them a little more and has them higher on the board? I mean, the Steelers could be looking at the 4th quarterback. I'm trying to think who else could possibly fit into this mix where is the guy that they want there, or are we going to have that situation? Do they move up a little bit? Who they move up for? I think I already mentioned Kyle Hamilton too. It probably should be off the board by this point. We could even run one of these little mock things too and see just who've we've been using here. Pro Football Wizards. Focus.
The Wizards. Let me actually while you're setting that up, I'm gonna pontificate on our question here. Will the Steelers find their next franchise quarterback on Thursday night? And I'm gonna tell you that in my view, it doesn't matter whether they draft a quarterback in the 1st round or not. The answer is still going to be no, because I don't think any of these guys are necessarily a franchise quarterback. I just don't buy that right now. Doesn't mean I'm right, but I'm always right. So
yeah, of course.
What can I tell you? Look, I think that they can be. There's some of the guys that can be consistent starters in the NFL, but that is different than being the guy, the franchise guy, right? A guy that is capable of lifting your team up. I just don't see that guy in this draft, period. So in my mind, the answer to the question, will the Steelers find their next franchise quarterback on Thursday night, is just unequivocally no matter what they do. If they draft a quarterback, I still don't think that they've found their franchise quarterback. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you absolutely sure about that? Because there's a lot of folks out there that will look at this gentleman from the University of Pittsburgh, and I think there's some homer bias here with Kenny.
There's
Kenny
definitely
Pickett.
Homer bias there.
And they're starting to believe that maybe he could be the next Dan Marino, and I'm not sure even that the Dan Marino thing
0% sold on that with his tiny hands. 0.
Yeah, but Joe Burrow, man, and I mean, a little bit.
Are his hands bigger than Joe Burrow's?
And I thought they were the same size. I don't know. He gained like a 1/4 inch of hand somewhere during his pro day. They like grew. Maybe he got more fingernails or something. Like some of the ladies out there, he got the fake nails, the press-ons, and now
feeling like that's a fudged number. I'm feeling like it's fudged.
Very well could be. Okay, so I have brought up the Pro Football Wizards.
Oh, look, this is some fancy schmancy crap now, buddy.
It is. I'm gonna hit start draft just to see. I might do a couple of these just to see who's gone and on the board. We could probably speed this up a little.
Hutchinson,
Sauce Gardner, Kayvon Thibodeau, Derek Stingley. Wow, that's high. Evan Neal. I forgot about Evan Neal. Charles Cross. That's a possibility. Trayvon Walker, Garrett Wilson. See, Drake London, Jamison Williams, couple wide receivers, Trent McDuffie, got a corner, Devin Lloyd, Chris Olave's gone, Jermaine Johnson, Andrew Booth, Jordan Davis. Brian, there wasn't a quarterback that went.
Not one. You got your choice. Take any of them.
Got anybody that you want. And it's funny. Look where Pro Football Focus has versus what the average draft position has been with everyone here. They actually have Malik Willis ranked here 30th.
Yep.
Overall, Sam Howell 34th, and then you have Desmond Ritter 41st, Pickett 42nd, Matt Corral 53rd, and then Carson Strong 68. And then you're getting into like Bailey Zapp and some of the folks like that. Let's see. If I didn't take Willett, let's just say I take Pickett because I think he's maybe the top guy. Let's speed this up and see which quarterbacks end up hanging around here. I could have swore I just saw Sky Moore go in the first round on this also. That would be pretty wild. Yeah, I think he did. How about that? No, I don't want quarterback in. Let's see, quarterback. Oh, now everybody kind of goes. Carson Strong.
Yep.
I'm just kind of curious where everyone went from 20. Trevor Penning, George Karlaftis, Nakobe Dean, Tyler Linderbaum. Let's see. Let's keep going. Do we have another? We don't have another first round quarterback here. Sky Moore into the first. Wow, that would be crazy. It was.
There you go, Malik Willis to the Lions in the second round,
and that's a definite. So that is absolutely a definite sort of possibility with the Lions drafting very high into the second round. Now, some of the thought process here might be some other team's going to have to jump back up over top of them, maybe even go into the first round so they can get that fifth-year option on a deal where none of these guys want to play on it to begin with. It seems like nowadays. So let's see. We had Carson Strong was available. Let's see. George Pickens, Desmond Ritter to the Texans,
too. Yeah,
and Matt Corral to the Seahawks. Looks like there was a trade here. I love how it makes trades, and Sam Howell to the Falcons. So, while PFF doesn't think that any of these young players that are coming out in the draft are the first rounders that we were just kind of saying and alluding to, they do think that those individual teams are going to make a move for quarterbacks.
Run this again and don't take Kenny Pickett.
Don't take Kenny Pickett.
See if the second time around all the quarterbacks are still there at 20, and don't take one.
Okay, I'm gonna have to blah 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 blah. Let me set this back up, my friend, and enter the draft. It's like
I'd like to see basically in that draft, the only team that took a first round quarterback was your Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Which I would consider to be a mistake. But that's what happened. So I want to see if nobody takes one, do they all fall? If we don't take one, do they all fall to the second round?
Well, let's
and if
find
they
out.
all fall into the second round, where do they go?
Let's find out. Let's put this somewhere not as fast, but we'll see if anybody ends up going. And everybody's going to say, well, we do something like the Draft Network or something else like that. We'll see. Malik Willis just went. So Malik Willis is, I believe, the only one off the board to the Saints on this particular simulation.
Okay.
So
don't take. Well,
don't take him. We'll take
one.
somebody else. Jordan Davis
take
there.
Linderbaum.
Linderbaum? You sure?
No, take Jordan Davis. To hell with it. Or take Chris Olave. Why not? It's fake.
All right, we're gonna take Olave. Yeah, and there goes Linderbaum and Davis, like boom, boom. We're like right after that. Dax Hill, Sky Moore still in the first round. Ritter just went to the Lions again. I think Pickett.
I saw Kenny Pickett
and Sam Howell. So and Matt Corral.
Again, one quarterback in the first round.
One in the first round. The only guy that's left is Carson Strong here. And in the top 50, you had, I believe, the top 5 already off the board. So that's some interesting stuff. Do you think I should pull up one of these other?
Yeah, go ahead and pull up the Draft Network because they usually annoy me. And don't pull up the other one that we used to use long ago because they're outdated.
Oh,
now.
My goodness. Yeah, it's pretty bad. So anyways, Brian, as I'm pulling this up, the mock draft machine, I love saying nice
machine.
The nice and fun. I got my the Micah Tyler and Ben shirt today. If anyone still hasn't picked up one of those, I think they're still available for the charitable reason, and that would be more than nice of you to do. I had Ben on my mind. He was putting out some photos with the family and saying something about retired life, which was kind of funny. Okay, let's try and get this thing set up just where we want it. Of course, we're going to get ads and stuff that are in here. So let's see. We want to do manual. Well, we just want 2 rounds, right? We could do it fast. That's fine. Let's start the draft. Yep. And here we go. And it's their predictive board. And we're trying to see. Oh, I saw Pickett go. So who's still left?
Saints take Kenny Pickett.
Well, we show who's drafted. Yeah, Malik Willis went 3rd overall, it appears.
Are you kidding me?
No. Oh, I'm sorry. He was their 3rd ranked, not 3rd overall. He went 6th overall to the Carolina Panthers, which that's been gaining some steam as well. Let's see who else. They still have, it's pretty much a lot of the same players, though. Aiden Hutchinson, Trayvon Walker, Evan Neal, Ike Iquanu, Thibodeau, Malik Willis is there, Charles Cross, Jermaine Johnson, Ahmad Gardner, Kyle Hamilton, Garrett Wilson, Stingley, Booth Jr., Jordan Davis, Drake London, Kenny Pickett to the Saints at 16, and then Trevor Penning, Zion Johnson, Jamison Williams, and the Steelers pretty much have, let's see, Desmond Ritter, Matt Corral, Sam Howell, and Carson Strong. Once again, looking at
You
them.
get to this point, and Pickett and Malik Willis are gone. You don't pick a quarterback.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that myself. Like, you take a look at, let's see, who else is available on the board. I showed the drafted, but you still got Devontae Wyatt, but we don't know if things are going to change now. You always got those things that leak. Chris Olave is still there. Ritter, McDuffie has fallen down here. Tyler Linderbaum, who we said might be available.
Let's take Linderbaum this time.
You're going to take Linderbaum and see who's in the second round. I'm cool with that, by the way. I'd be completely fine with that. Why not get the young? There's Sky Moore right there, 33, first pick of the second round. That's going to screw up my mock because Pro Football Focus. I did all of these, and just like last week, he was available in even the third round, I believe, in my one mock, which I'll cover. Wow, Breece Hall's down here. I wonder if any other running backs have actually gone. There hasn't been a lot of talk. We don't.
I know. I apologize for forgetting running backs. I got overwhelmed with all the picks I had.
Well, do you really need to take like a first or second round running back?
No, that was part of the problem. I wasn't going to take him that early.
Yeah, that's just that's bonkers to me. That's not something that I want to do necessarily, and it's completely fine. I think to have Benny Snell, if you think the offensive line is going to be any better. But yeah, we totally neglected running backs. You know why? Because they took one last year in the first round. Now I understand 17-game season, folks. I do want somebody else there, but I do think there's going to be some capable veterans that are around. I don't think that you're taking Breece Hall here, though, in the draft, even if he's available here at 41, not. Which has been like kind of the sweet spot at some point. Sam Howell's still there. Isaiah Spiller's still there when you're looking at it. But yeah, Sam Howell and Carson Strong. I don't know.
Not on the quarterbacks. What do we got in here at wide receiver?
How Mechie? Let's see, Khalil Shakir. You're starting to get into almost like third rounders, maybe, according to their draft board. Anyways, Alec Pierce has been all over the place. I've seen him kind of mocked in the second round, also. So
not looking. That's not a good selection of wide receivers. What's tackle look like?
Let's see. We got Falalala is here.
There you go. I'm done. I'll go with that.
And yeah, I know that would make you extremely happy. I think I have to look at safeties too. There's Nick Cross from Maryland, but when you're talking 101 and Steelers are on the board the next, you're trying to combat yourself and see. You're trying to predict what the other teams are going to have on their draft boards and where they're going to have those players. So it'd be interesting to see if they decided to go the route of taking do they gamble with the safety second round? It looks like pretty much in both of these cases or scenarios, they know better than we do. We do these mocks every year. Everybody's like 99% wrong for the most part, except for getting Najee Harris. If they pass on a safety, they're not going to maybe get the safety they want in the second round. Although you have these players that slip too. You do have the Pat Freiermuths that slip. You have the Stephon Tuitts that slip. The Juju Smith-Schusters that you forget are still on the board. That everybody, me and Zach were saying this the other day, like 90 first-round grades. It doesn't always work that way. So there's a possibility, as we saw with two of these simulations, that perhaps like MJD had, I think, 4 quarterbacks off the board. I got to find his mock draft just to see who he ended up giving the Steelers anyways. I'm going to try and pull this up so everyone else can see it. But unfortunately, NFL.com likes to throw video at everyone. But Charles Cross, tackle, Mississippi State. Not necessarily the...
This is the rare time where I don't loathe what Maurice Jones-Drew did.
Yeah, and I don't know. Now you gotta say, and his justification here is Steelers need help on the offensive line. You're going to play Charles Cross at left tackle over Dan Moore Jr., I would assume, and not over Chuks Okorafor, who they just gave a new contract to, even though it's not the richest contract in the world. It's definitely one where he's going to start this year, and I don't know that you want to have this has been my problem even with quarterback, but quarterback, I think you expect to sit the player for a little bit. You kind of have to. You don't want, I know everybody played quarterbacks last year, and there were 5 in that class, and you had a completely mixed bag of performances all across the board. I mean, you look at it this way. We didn't like Mac Jones last year.
Nope.
Would you have been happy with Mac Jones playing for the Steelers last year? Probably not. He probably would have struggled. I think just
now let me. This is an interesting segue that you placed me in here.
Okay,
because I'm going to tell you something. I'd take Doughboy Mac Jones heads and tails over any of the quarterbacks in this draft.
That's and that's entirely plausible too. And I might too after seeing him play. But then again, he's in New England. I think the system. You
Nothing to do with that.
But okay, Mike Tomlin, Bill Belichick, I think that helps him. Mac Jones. He goes to the Jets. He's going to be like the way Zach Wilson was.
Probably, yeah. I wouldn't disagree with that.
And I've found myself, as much as I didn't like the quarterbacks last year, and we didn't really see a whole lot of Trey Lance to really make judgment. We saw a little bit of Justin Fields to make some judgment. What am I missing here? Oh, of course, Trevor Lawrence. Didn't Lawrence actually have more picks than he had touchdowns? I do believe. Okay, so getting this pulled up here, we're going to take a look and see what Maurice Jones-Drew did here. Mute the crap out of this website. And, of course, he went Trayvon Walker to the Jaguars, which that leads Hutchinson for Dan Campbell and the Lions at number 2 overall.
What was his reasoning? Go up there for a second. You skipped by that. I just want to say.
Without a superstar in this year's edge class, this pairing makes too much sense to me. Walker has a wide-ranging skill set and the highest ceiling with the right coaching. And I mean, this very well could be three guys on defense to start. There's even talk of 4.
I absolutely think so.
And
yeah.
This would preclude a quarterback falling to the Steelers just as. But do you want the quarterback that's going to follow the Steelers, depending on who's there? And I thought he had 4 going here. This is his most recent mock draft that was on April 21st, so just about a day ago. Ike Ekwonu, Kenny Pickett to the Panthers, Jermaine Johnson, Malik Willis to the Falcons, Desmond Ritter at 9 to the Seahawks.
Whoa!
I'll tell you what, the only thing that I've seen crazier than that hot take was when we were mocking the mock drafts. And we'll be able to do that live and in living color now. But I just didn't want to trade up for Desmond Ritter. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me to put him in the Steelers with a trade and giving up trade capital. So let me bounce back over and let's take a look now. So Ritter's gone, and then Matt Corral at 10. How did I just miss that? Like right beneath it. I wasn't looking far enough down the page, but Seahawks, or not the Seahawks, I'm sorry. The Seahawks took Ritter. The Saints are moving up to 10.
Trade with the Jets.
With the Jets. We might see the Jets making some other trades. We hear about Deebo Samuel and all this other. Oh, by the way, Brian, that's a good point. We have to bring that up right now. Let me get directly in the camera here. Point at you folks out there. It is clickbait. You are not going to see Deebo Samuel to the Steelers. That is not going to happen. They are not going to pay him $1 bazillion. They are not trading Deontay Johnson, who's also under a 1-year contract, to grab the guy that could do all of these different things that I think he's a little PO'd and doesn't want to do all of these different things. So that's just, no, stop it.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, that's not what I'm feeling comfortable with. Bounce back around here. We've got Jamison Williams, Derek Stingley Jr., what did I say? Evan Neal, Jordan Davis, Kyle Hamilton at 15. Well, you might see the Steelers do something there. Garrett Wilson falls all the way to 16. Isn't that something too?
Well, go back to Kyle Hamilton for a second. Now, that if Kyle Hamilton is hanging around at 15,
that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely, I can see the Steelers making a move to get him.
Yeah,
absolutely. That move, five spots, that's a reasonable move. The draft capital they'd have to give up is minimal, comparatively speaking. It obviously would depend on the deal, but Colbert's never going to give up, the future to do that. But if they can make that kind of move, sure, I'm all in.
Yeah, and you're even seeing here, I mean, Garrett Wilson falling into there. I don't know. I still, yeah, that's tough, man. Jordan Davis to the Ravens, wouldn't that? That would just be totally, him or Wyatt would totally be something that they would do, even though I think they might be looking tackle as well. Drake London to the Eagles. These teams can really do whatever they want. They're playing with house money with all these picks. Boye Mafe now with that trade with the Saints drops there. And of course we had Charles Cross with the Steelers, but Olave's still there. McDuffie. There's Breece Hall. He's in the first round again. Andrew Booth all the way down to 26. Linderbaum to 27. This is that seems a little like strange. I know that they had what's his name? Was it Ali Marpet or whatever that just retired from the Buccaneers, and then I thought they lost somebody to free agency too. And I know that their center Ryan, man, I'm drawing blanks all across the board here, but he signed a pretty rich contract, but he's in his mid-30s now. You got Trevor Penning to the Packers and the 49ers. Traylon Burks, a wide receiver. That could be with Deebo Samuel. Oh, now they're saying that the Chiefs traded. Receivers no longer a need, so he has a trade for Deebo to the Chiefs here, although I thought that the Chiefs had already come out alive and in living color and said no, they are not going to make that sort of trade. So that seems just a little bit awkward to me. And let me see. The Bengals go with DeMarvin Leal. I don't know that I see him mocked in a whole lot of first rounds, but that's possible for Larry Ogunjobi leaving. The Lions, Jahan Dotson to finish there. We don't have anything else from that particular round to show. Well, anything beyond the first round to show you. So I guess what we really need to say is I had that morbid curiosity. We're almost mocking the mocks again here, but with all of those quarterbacks gone, it makes sense for the Steelers to take the best player available, whether that's a tackle or one of the other defensive players. I mean, Olave's still there. What did I say? Wyatt's still there. There's still
Wyatt
was gone. Hamilton is still in a position where
Hamilton was where we could get him.
Trade, most certainly. And I think that the Eagles definitely do have a need at safety. So do the Commanders. The Commanders, they let Landon Collins go. And myself and Zach are going to talk a little bit more about that because there's definitely the free agents that are sitting out there like Landon Collins, Terrell Edmonds, the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. They're all sitting because of this safety class with Hamilton, Dax Hill, Lewis Seen. You got a handful of safeties here at the top of this board that I think teams are looking at, maybe the cheap contract, a younger player, things of that nature versus shelling out a little bit more money for a veteran player. But you have options should you not go there, and the Steelers would look at quarterback. But let's look at the different quarterbacks, Brian. Let's start with, you were already saying you're out on this man, Kenny Pickett. You're not seeing anything that you
want me to give you the other reason I'm out?
Sure.
Besides his tiny hands?
Tiny hands.
You know who his NFL comparison is?
No, I'm not familiar.
One Andrew Dalton.
No.
Yes.
No, we don't want.
Yes.
No, Andy Dalton. We can't be doing that.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out on Kenny Pickett.
Well,
I'm just flat out.
Let's see. We get a little bit of highlights, a little bit of Kenny Pickett running around, a little bit of Ben-esque there. This is what people are seeing because the other thing is it's like he'd be playing in the same home field. Remember when Ben used to do that? I just caught a game, I think from like 2016, maybe it was. And it was, I think it was the one with the Cowboys. And Ben actually like ran for like one of these like that. And I'm like, wow, he was still able to do that like about 5 years ago. But I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about Pickett. You know, if you're getting the guy that's probably the top player on the board, and these are all the highlights from that Clemson game too. That one knocked away. Not really a highlight there, so to speak. But Kenny Pickett, you say small hands. He seems like he's probably the most pro-ready guy. He could play day one. And I know all of the Yinzers are going to say, put this guy in as soon as Trubisky or Rudolph or whoever the heck is in there. And I still think with Trubisky and Rudolph, you've got two players that are capable of playing and see what you got. We know we said that next year's more quarterback, a better quarterback class. But people are saying out there, they're like, hey, what if the Steelers don't draft that high? And I said, well, if they're not drafting high enough to grab a quarterback next year, then quarterback's probably not a problem. It's not going to be an issue. It means they probably found that somebody that works and they're able to roll with. Well, I think they could still win 8 games just based on defense. I'm like, well, yeah, they made the playoffs last year with Ben, who's. I bet you think Ben, they hung on to Ben a little bit too long. I had one of those thoughts in the shower, Brian. where you're thinking, you're listening to the radio. I heard about the mammoth guy, the Cole Kelly from southeastern Louisiana, wherever in the bayou.
Mhm.
And he mentioned Ben as one of the guys that he watches. Obviously, Josh Allen as well in Buffalo reminds me a lot of the elusiveness that Ben had. And I'm like, did the Steelers wait around with Ben too long? Did they know that you had the elbow injury? Because a lot of people are like, well, they could have just drafted someone else. And I don't think they would have drafted someone else necessarily. But I also think you had to give the benefit of the doubt to Ben and see if he could still play as Ben had played. Like, you're just not passing on him. This isn't like serious neck injury stuff like Peyton Manning, where you're like 100% sure he's not going to be able to do it. And you ended up having a really terrible season. So you drafted number 1 overall. That's a completely different situation. If the Steelers imagine if they had a totally tanked 2019, Rudolph was just garbage. I mean, I know you guys make jokes and be funny, but they still were in playoff contention up until about the end of the season, even with the Duck rotated in there. If they end up in like the position the Bengals were in and are able to draft Joe Burrow, it's a completely different conversation with the
Absolutely.
top pick overall. That's what people miss from the Peyton Manning to the Andrew Luck thing situation. And then, of course, when it was the 49ers taking Alex Smith over Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is the second quarterback, I believe, off the board in that draft. He falls all the way down to Green Bay. Green Bay didn't have a whole lot of holes, and they were looking at an aging Brett Favre. He's like, what, probably 38, 39 at the same time. That kind of thing didn't really transpire here with the Steelers, I don't think. You're going to say Lamar Jackson, but we've mentioned that so many darn times. But in what other way is this manifested? There wasn't like Patrick Mahomes slid down into where the Steelers were drafting in the 20s. It wasn't like Deshaun Watson was there in the 20s. It isn't like, let's think, like even Mac Jones, for that matter, goes like 15th last year. They had no opportunity really to snag somebody that would even be considered, I think, one of the top 3 quarterbacks in any of like the last 5 drafts in the position that we're in. I'm saying top 3. I'm saying Lamar Jackson's the 5th quarterback off of the board. And you also had Joe Flacco, who was dealing with some injuries there too. It made more sense for Baltimore to make that kind of move.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's just, this will be the first year that it makes sense to at least seriously consider drafting a quarterback at the point where they're at, right? Where they've been, the idea of trading up, the idea of trying to snag people at those points just didn't make sense. You still had what you hoped was a guy who could make you competitive and maybe sneak you in and get a chance to make a run. You don't. You don't right now. We don't know about Mitch, but we didn't think we did. So we won't say. I'm not going to disparage Mitch Trubisky yet. I'll wait until he earns it.
Fair enough. That's kind of the way I feel. I'll probably buy his jersey. Again, it was the guy I found the least faults with and maybe the most upside of the free agent class. I didn't really like any of the free agents either, but considering what ended up, rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins, what ended up happening, I thought they had a pretty solid plan in place. And I'm not sure that what happens with Dwayne necessarily changes what the Steelers were going to do. We talked to the professor. He had already heard the news about the other assistant quarterback coach, David, was it Coley? I'm sorry. I'm telling you, I'm doing bad with names right now. I'm waffling on them, but I still think, rest in peace, and not to disparage anybody here, it'd be funny, but was Dwayne Haskins getting a helmet on game days when they already brought in Mitch Trubisky and Mason Rudolph has been the backup? He would have really had to force the Steelers' hands to be the backup behind Trubisky in order to even get a helmet and be active on game days. The way his path to being active is that Trubisky becomes inactive, goes in the doghouse like he did with what's his name up with the Chicago Bears, Matt Nagy, and everything just kind of falls apart. And for whatever reason, playing Nick Foles and doing stupid stuff like that. The guy was playing Andy Dalton last year over Justin Fields, and I know that's the way I was supposed to start. And they told Andy Dalton that he was going to be the starter. Wasn't that some genuine billboard material to fire up everyone? So, yeah, I'm not sure that it necessarily changes the Steelers' plans that they had. They might look a little more, there's a hole here on the depth chart, but I think that's kind of like more a street free agent type thing than anything else.
Yeah. I don't want to keep beating the dead horse, but yes.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I was just trying to get a swig of coffee here.
I'm sorry. Well, then I'll let you get your swig of coffee, and I'll say, why don't we start looking at the people that might? I mean, we've talked about them a little bit, but we haven't talked about them at great depth, other than we just talked about Kenny Pickett or Andy Dalton V2. Why don't we continue on with the rest of them?
Yeah, like Malik Willis, just right here.
Like Malik Willis, Jalen Hurts clone.
Well, yeah, a lot of people wanted the Steelers to go after Jalen Hurts in that position. They say,
did.
oh, he was in round 2 and this and that. He's done all right. He was on my fantasy team. He put up some numbers there. He got them. They got into the playoffs, but that's because they had like a lack of running game too. The Eagles were trying to sort themselves out last
year. I will say this about Malik Willis: if I'm taking a quarterback, Malik Willis is the one I'm taking. And the reason I say that is because it's a gamble anywhere at this point, but this is the guy I think who has the most upside. He's the guy that I think fits the best in the way that the modern league is going. And while there's certainly question marks, and I'm very clear in saying I don't necessarily think this guy is a franchise quarterback. This is a guy I think they can groom to become a solid starter and maybe have that potential on the upside. I don't see that upside for the others.
Yeah, I could agree with that too. And you see him do it with his legs. You see him always go. He seems to be a guy that looks downfield for the big play. It's very, Ben Roethlisberger-esque in a way that, Ben Roethlisberger. I was looking at some of the Big Ben highlights too over the last. Somebody had put up something somewhere on the internet. It may have even been the Steelers. They put it up direct, and it was like, holy cow, man! You tend to forget how much that he actually did to extend plays, and I think that's something that's very. Any of the teams that are looking at Willis, the only thing that like puts people off, I think, on Willis whatsoever, and I don't think it's necessarily fair, is that he's from a small college, and I don't think that's necessarily fair. You take a look at Ben Roethlisberger coming out of Miami University. I don't know. Has anybody talked about Miami University before or after Ben Roethlisberger? And we're talking about Ohio, Miami, Ohio. We're not talking about Miami, Florida, and the Hurricanes. So. That's something, I mean, I mentioned Steve McNair. I mentioned some other players. You have Carson Wentz and Trey Lance are coming out of North Dakota. And there's many players that have come from all over small colleges throughout and that are in the NFL. Not everyone needs to come from Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson in order to be a successful player in the NFL. And you look at how big his arm is. I know we were looking at pro day stuff. He gets everyone excited when he's in, practicing in shorts, warm-ups without the pads. But he does. He passes the eye test. And I know that's the problem that a lot of folks have with Mason Rudolph is that he does not pass the eye test. Mitch Trubisky has not passed the eye test. He has like 5 times more starts than what Mason has right now. But if you don't have to throw Malik Willis out there, first thing, it's just look at some of the plays. He faked the cameraman out, which would be nice too. You're not going to get, Brian, you're not going to get the big Ben Roethlisberger pump fakes out of Kenny Pickett.
No,
with
the ball hands will be gone. There is no, you can't hold it with them tiny hands.
And Malik Willis is a guy that he's a load to bring down too. I understand. We're not looking at him he's capable of doing some of the things like Lamar Jackson does. But I also think that he might be a better prospect in terms of being a passer. How quick do those things come together? You never know. He could have one of these preseasons, one of these camps that's much like a Russell Wilson. Now he's bigger than Wilson. And he's a little smaller than Ben. He's about little over 6 feet tall, 6.5. He's listed at 219, 9.5-inch hands. We got some bigger hands. I didn't bring up Kenny Pickett, and I need to bring up Kenny Pickett because I think it was he like a full inch shorter, or was it like 8 3/4 or something like that? I'm drawing a blank on it right now, but we could take a look at a little more of Malik Willis. Well, I end up getting Kenny Pickett's hand size, the big drama. The social media stuff that comes on, 8.5. So you've got a guy who has an inch longer, and people are like, "Why is that a thing?" Well, the NFL football is a little bit bigger than what you got in college. And there's a legitimate concern when you got guys that are bigger, stronger, and faster running around you and are paid big bucks to come after the football, that they're going to knock it out of your hands, i.e. somebody like TJ Watt.
Yep. Absolutely correct. You can't look, if you've got tiny hands, you cannot secure the ball as well as if you have bigger hands. I mean, you can have great grip strength, but if the ball, like, we need to have like a little thing that pops up here that says science with Brian. But like the circumference of the football may be greater than the circumference of the hands. Therefore, the tensionality of the fingers upon the different pieces of the curvy ball won't hold.
Yeah, I mean, you could just see something like Malik Willis here gets the ball, and it's just even simply just rolling out. I think this has been a little bit of a problem. Mitch Trubisky's had the fumbles. That's the biggest thing that I've had an issue with. And I still think that Mason Rudolph has the arm, but you got to look at the upside of somebody like Malik Willis. If he were the first-round pick here, you could say what you saw at the Senior Bowl, good, bad, like there's just some vanilla defenses or whatever. That's fine. We didn't get Ryan. Ryan's over Lippert, who's one of our draft guys here, who also works with another draft outlet. And they just did a mock draft, and this is like the guy he's most high on as far as quarterbacks, and he likes him. And we didn't get Ryan on because he's actually in Vegas, not for the draft. Unfortunately, he's out there for a bachelor party. So maybe
unfortunately,
well, not. I don't know.
I mean, if you got to go from someplace for a bachelor party, isn't that the movie, man? I mean, that's the whole movie.
Unfortunately, he's not here. It's not unfortunate to him. He would probably much rather be part of the Hangover crew.
Stay away from Mike Tyson.
If he's watching. But we might get something. We're going to have his mock draft over on the website here shortly as well. So who else do we have? Now we get into how good do you feel about, I guess the next guy on our board is gotta be Desmond Ritter, right?
I guess.
I mean, who else are you going to go with? I don't think you like Sam Howell or Matt Corral.
I don't. Well, this will make you like Matt Corral less. His comparison is Baker Mayfield.
Oh, goodness. Do we, seriously have to end up bringing that up once again?
No, I don't bring it up so that we can segue into the fantasy land of Baker Mayfield in Steelers clothes, because that's a fantasy that's never going to happen. But, let's just understand that that's the type of quarterback. And when these NFL comparisons come up, nobody's saying they're going to be that guy. They're just saying that's who they compare to. That's the type of quarterback. So it's not like I wouldn't expect Kenny Pickett to, get hit enough, although he has the reputation for having nervous feet and he has problems in the pocket because he's had bad protection. And there are issues with him worrying about getting hit. But I don't expect him to be the guy that on fourth down throws the ball away the way Andy Dalton did.
Man.
I'll never forget it. He
still does it.
But
he still does it.
But,
it's not a habit that he hasn't grown out of whatsoever. But between the next three guys, do you want Ritter, Howell, or Matt Corral with pick 20 overall? I'm not feeling that.
With pick 20, absolutely not. With pick 52, if Ritter was there at 52, I would take a flyer. Because Alex Smith has had a very lengthy career in the NFL. Again, I don't categorize Alex Smith as a potential franchise quarterback or the guy who can get you there, but he's a guy that can be competitive. And if we had a defense that was elite and you had Desmond Ritter being able to manage the games and you had Najee Harris running for 150 yards a game, maybe you can get a Super Bowl out of that.
Yeah, I absolutely love some of the comparisons that they have over on NFL.com. And when you look at it, what was it? Kenny Pickett. They have him.
I just told you, Andy Dalton.
Hold on. Well, yeah, I'm sorry. Andy Dalton, Desmond Ritter with Alex Smith, Malik Willis, comped with, and
Jalen Hurts and Jay Cutler.
Do you happen to know who Sam Howell? Matt Corral.
That's the only one I don't know.
Mayfield. So I got Sam Howell loading, and Chase Daniel.
That should be a disqualification from being in the first 3 rounds, period.
That is wow. That's very interesting.
That's brutal.
You never know though. Like I would like to go back and see maybe like who Justin Herbert was comped with. You know, that's one of the ones where everybody was shocked at where the Chargers took them, and there was instant criticism, but he came out and had like very much like numbers like Ben Roethlisberger that year. And we'll see, you know, we don't know where these careers end up. Guys have a good year, guys have one other not so good year. I'm with you. Like, I guess I've settled on if Ritter is there in the first round and that's who they take at 20 because they feel he won't be there at 52. Like, I could live with that. I'd get excited over Kenny Pickett. I'd be excited over Malik Willis too. You haven't twisted my arm in this case of it will be a quarterback without a doubt, like we did last year with Najee Harris in the running back position. I really have a sense that the Steelers are set up to kind of go in in multiple directions where they could. Let's say it this way, Brian. They just picked up Miles Boykin, and I got shredded for saying that he was what, like 6'5", 220-ish or whatever. And people are like, well, he's only had like 33 career catches. And I'm like, yeah, the Ravens in 2019 and 2020.
Don't throw the ball.
They don't throw the ball at all. They were dead last.
Don't throw the ball.
The Steelers in 2019 with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph, okay, for almost the entire season. And then you had whatever the Randy Fichtner offense was in 2020. And I know that they were throwing the ball around, but the Steelers had like almost 400 more pass attempts than the Baltimore Ravens, who were 32nd in both of those seasons. They were dead last in pass attempts for both of those seasons. There's not enough. Willie Snead only had like 30-some catches. Sammy Watkins only had like 30-some catches. There wasn't a lot going around. There was Hollywood Brown who drops the ball. So I'm not saying the guy's going to be a superstar, but he's like wide receiver 3. It's something you should be excited about adding for a little risk that they got him off of waivers. Everybody's just like, oh, just more trash. The Steelers don't know what they're doing. But yet these same Yinzers were all over James Washington. And it's like, there's not really a whole lot else there. This guy's bigger than James Washington. Maybe he can come free. Maybe he can come off his breaks or create some separation. And he's 6'5". He's going to create separation just by virtue of how big he is.
Yeah, look, is he a guy that's going to take them over the top? Is he their future number one? Does he replace? No. But he's a solid component, and you cannot compare what he did on the Ravens to what he could potentially do in a offense where the quarterback is not a running back.
Oh, man. I said that just joking around. And I know you said it. I saw that face. You know darn well that that's not something that I say. If I say it,
I don't even say it either. He's not I agree. He's a quarterback. He's not a running back. But the way that they use their offense is much heavier run oriented. It's run first, pass second. And in that kind of offense, all the receivers are going to be underutilized. So you can't beat him up about that when he doesn't have opportunities to catch ball.
No, that's been my whole point right there. So they've added a wide receiver, but this is what we said. If they draft someone, then they're probably also going to, or I'm going to say they're going to pick up somebody in free agency as well. They're going to try, or something. They're going to try and get someone who's a veteran at that position. And that's usually what they do. They double up. Will they double up in this draft? I don't know. I feel like 2.5 on when it comes to who might be the first round pick. Like we said, Kenny Pickett. Okay, that gets exciting. That's like the local guy. You know what I mean? Why not? Okay. Malik Willis. I mean, that gets you excited because of the potential. Desmond Ritter. Okay, yeah, because I just don't think that he goes very further back. Do you think the Steelers would actually trade back into the first round? They could do two things. They could move back, but I also thought if they don't trade up, let's say to 15 or something, would there be any potential there where they would trade back into the first round? I don't know that they have the capital to do so, but again, we're talking about that 5th-year option. You're going to use a first-round pick, and you don't think that you're going to be in a position next year. Are you swapping next year's first-round pick and a later pick to get back in at like pick 30, 31 with somebody who's not taking a quarterback?
I'm not going to try and be a Debbie Downer here, right? I'm not. But if you're the Steelers, you have to have some rational part of your mind going, we could suck big time, and our draft picks next year could be very high. So trying to give up that capital to make a move, unless the guy is the guy, that you have to have, I just don't see it.
That's exactly the way I've been kind of monitoring it myself. I feel the same thing. Like we talked about the points with the draft boards, and it's like if you end up with a top 10 pick and you gave that away to get like pick 30 to get a player that's still sitting there at 30, you got to like really value that player right there, because next year you might be in another position. And yeah, the Steelers might very well. This could happen. I mean, the Browns just got Watson. I know we've been ragging on them, but they've got Watson. You got Burrow over with the Bengals. They were just in the Super Bowl. You got the Baltimore Ravens, who were really banged up, and they should be getting everybody back. I mean, they had Tyler Huntley out there. And Tyler Huntley, they weren't playing Miles Boykin very much. And even if they were, Tyler Huntley isn't getting the ball to them. I mean, you had a season the year before, Brian, where I think Mark Andrews had like 50-some catch, maybe 48. And he was the leading receiver, I think, tied with Hollywood Brown. You didn't even have like a 50-catch receiver a couple years ago with the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm willing to give some benefit of the doubt. Boykin was somebody that they looked at. It's somebody that you had to absolutely bring up here, because it's like, would they go wide receiver? Does that mean they won't go wide receiver? Absolutely not. That doesn't mean that whatsoever. That means it's probably still on the table, and they had to fill it in somewhere. They lost 3 wide receivers. We talked about Matt Corral, and you said he was comped to Baker Mayfield. You got Jeff Darlington running around out there saying that a source of somebody who had grabbed something out of the vending machine next to some other executive said that in the hallway, said that the Steelers would snatch up Baker Mayfield in an instant if he was released from the Cleveland Browns. There's going to be a lot of teams that are interested. They're not interested right now for 18 big smackaroos guaranteed. The Browns are going to have to give something up. He's not there at OTAs. There was talk about whether or not he should force their hand and just show up and be in the building and be a nuisance to get them to do something. It's not the same situation as like Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo's rehabbing an injury and this and that and the other thing, which might be holding him. And so's Baker, to be completely honest. He should be back there, maybe rehabbing it and just putting it in their face. I understand it's a bad situation, but you know, he could force their hand maybe a little bit. I don't know how I would feel about Baker Mayfield being picked up. I'd probably be less enthusiastic than I am with Mitch Trubisky. You do have somebody who's a former first overall pick, one of the top of his class, was definitely going to be the top of his class, Heisman Trophy winner, which doesn't amount to a hill of beans in the pros. But we've seen how easily he gets rattled. But he's also had different coaches. And he was playing hurt, and that was gutsy last year. He has some energy. He has kind of like, dare I say, that Tim Tebow factor, where he's got some leadership there, but he also rubbed people the wrong way. He's got to learn to tone it down a little bit as well. But we talked about Aaron Rodgers we talked about all these guys that are divas. And if they were on the Steelers roster, then it'd be our diva. So then we kind of overlooked those sort of things. I could see the leadership, but I just don't necessarily know. We saw the Cleveland chant sucks. The Cleveland sucks chants. I'm sorry. Blah. Said that completely backwards. At that Ben Roethlisberger farewell game, and how badly Baker Mayfield was just rattled. And we've seen what happened with Odell Beckham going over to the Rams. And he had Jarvis Landry. And they put money for Austin Hooper. And they have all of these guys. You're surrounding them with talent. And he wasn't able to do anything with them. Is that a fault of like having Freddie Kitchens and Hugh Jackson and then Todd Haley for a little bit? And then Greg Williams comes in, interim coach, and then Stefanski, but then you didn't have Stefanski in that playoff game, and you saw Alex Van Pelt take over some play calling, and they beat the Steelers in a wild card game, and that's about the best that he's looked. And you're wondering now, is Kevin Stefanski a problem? Are these other guys a problem? Is Baker Mayfield the problem? What is the problem with this guy? And the Colts passed on him for, yet another old man and Matt Ryan. I mean, I don't know if I'd be too excited about it. It depends. If he's cut and then you're picking him up and it's like, okay, well, you know what? We're going to pay. It's the same thing like they did Dwayne Haskins. I don't know. If they cut him, he goes into waivers.
Yeah.
He'll be, or wait. That's an interesting topic now. The 5th-year option, right? I think 4 years, they're tenured. I think he becomes straight up a free agent after 4 years. So he would not hit the waiver. Is he still, because he's on his first contract, even though it's a 5th-year option? Or is he a tenured NFL player and he isn't subject to waivers anymore? That's interesting.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. I think it's 4 years. You're tenured, and then you're not. you're not subject to waivers. He would be a free agent because otherwise somebody would just claim him. Like the Steelers claimed Dwayne Haskins. He was only 2 years into his NFL career. So when you think of it in that aspect, they were able to get a cheap contract. You would still have to sign this guy, but if the Browns cut him, they still owe him 18 million smackaroos regardless because it's guaranteed money. They don't get to cut that off of their cap.
Right. Well, here let me just say that Charles Bragg, a frequent listener, a Browns fan, a helmet-worthy winner, will agree with you what you said originally, which is that the Cleveland sucks chant or the Cleveland chant sucks. So he will agree with that sentiment that the Cleveland chant sucked. But look, I don't want Baker Mayfield anywhere in the Steelers, period, ever. I didn't think Baker Mayfield was a good pick for the Browns. I've said it from the beginning. Why do I want that trash?
Yeah.
I don't.
No, here's where I was different from you on Mayfield. I thought Mayfield was the best fit, number 1 overall in that draft to the Browns versus Sam Darnold. I was not liking Sam Darnold whatsoever. One of my good friends, like I said, the best man that was at my wedding, we call him Double E. He's bigger football nuts than probably both of us. He's a Browns guy, right? And he had each of these drafts, he's called it. He didn't want Brady Quinn years ago. Brandon Whedon, he was like, what the hell are they doing?
Well, come on. That one was easy.
But he was all over Derek Carr, and he was all over Josh Allen. And he was right on both of those guys. He did not like Josh Rosen. Did not like
I'm with
Darnold.
you 100%. Who was my quarterback that I said if the Steelers had the opportunity to take in that draft? Josh Allen.
Yes. Yeah. And, well, that didn't end up happening. You see where he ends up falling. Again, where their position in the draft. They hadn't had an opportunity, and you have other needs. Devin Bush, say what you will. They've been looking, and had been looking for the Ryan Shazier replacement forever. And I was watching that 2016 game that I was talking about, Shazier flying around the field. Oh, man. But still, Zeke, they couldn't stop the run. Jarvis Jones, I think, was still around. Just some ugly stuff. Anthony Chickillo makes an appearance there, too. It's funny.
Chickillo.
It's funny. You're only talking about like 5 years ago, and there's players that are
Mr. Chicklets.
Now they're out of the NFL. But, Brian, I think we've pretty much hit the nail on the head with the quarterbacks. We've been talking about them the whole time. We're talking about all the first-round quarterbacks that have failed. We even mentioned like Heisman Trophy winners and this, that, and the other thing. We brought up Baker Mayfield, in this whole rumor situation with Jeff Darlington, who then everybody else grabs it instantly, and it makes it look like a bunch of people are reporting on it. And it was really only one guy making an opinion, I think, or the hearsay. And it just kind of drives me crazy in that regard. Malik Willis, I'd be cool with Willis. You're just not going to see him get on the field right away. So the Steelers are probably still going to need to get some help. They still need a safety. They could still re-sign their own guy back probably with Edmonds should the draft board not fall where they want. And I think that might be the plan. If the quarterback's not there, I think it's going to be safety. So you may have twisted my arm into saying it's going to be quarterback, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's definitely a guarantee that it's a quarterback because the quarterback they want might not be there and they may change gears.
Yep, absolutely agree. Hey, I heard a rumor.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I heard a rumor that we might try and do a live broadcast.
Oh, we're going to see if that's going to end up working out. We have enough technical difficulties in some of the changeover with what we're doing already, but hopefully everyone's enjoying that. Let us know. Give us some feedback. I've been watching some of the comments there. But, yeah, you also know, have you, Brian, have you heard that?
I don't know. What have I heard?
The bird's the word.
Bird is the word.
Oh, man. I got my kid with that. So now she's doing it all the time. And I kind of wish I didn't do that now. But anyways, thanks for joining me, my friend. We're almost here. We're almost at the finish line. We might still have a mock draft coming. I'm trying to get some more. We're trying to do, Tina called it the Brady Bunch squares. I said it was Hollywood squares. But maybe we'll get a little more squares here on the screen and get a couple more opinions, a little more fresh opinions. I know the Flash is watching, and he's going to be happy that we mentioned Malik Willis and the praise that we had for him. And that's about really, I mean, Pickett, if he's there, I sympathize with it. I told you I could even sympathize with Ritter. Ritter, I'd much rather if he were in round 2. But it is what it is, man. It's like the same thing with Najee last year. If you don't go get him, they're going to be gone. We saw all the running backs just flew the coop. There was a run on them, and then that was it. Between Travis,
Absolutely.
We didn't see Etienne on the field, so we kind of forget about him. But Javonte Williams, beast, and we liked him too. We were saying, oh, maybe they could get him. Nope, gone. gonzo. So there's other teams that have pretty much the same idea. So, hey, my friend, I can't wait. We might have some stuff coming. Yeah. How many of yins out there would like a live show? I don't know. We'd have to figure out if we're going to be monitoring the chat and fielding some live questions and all the hate mail. How can you guys be so positive all the time? Because the players haven't even taken the field yet. That's why.
Wait a minute. Did you listen? I just said they could stink.
But I'm not saying they're going to stay. Oh, man. It's been a really good segment with Peter Schrager and Kyle Brandt. If you're not watching Good Morning Football, they've been pulling up previous old draft takes. Who was the tight end that the Jets took in the 90s? Was it like 1999 or 98? And they had it live because there wasn't Twitter back then. They had the people right there on ESPN, or I don't even think NFL Network was a thing at that point, but they were like, oh, they absolutely stink. What are they doing? This is only going to be like a 3-win team. And it's the guys like, it's totally like the old airbrushed, like the starter jackets or the and the caps. I mean, they're still flat brim caps, but it's totally different. It was like the trucker hats and stuff like that. Like the fans that are on there. It was hilarious looking at some of those, but they pull up it's almost like mean tweets, and they pull up a lot of these things. And I'm sure we've got a ton of those we could probably pull up. We should do that for fun one day and see all the people that hated when TJ Watt was selected.
Oh my goodness.
So, hey, thanks for joining me once again, my friend. We're looking to do a little,
Absolutely.
We're going to be busy this upcoming week, so stick with us. We'll see what we can end up doing. We're going to try and see if we can work some bugs out. If you'd like to see us live on draft night, well, after the draft, we should say it'll be post-draft. I don't think we're going to be talking during the draft. There's plenty of other things to pay attention to. And you're just going to see us like watching very intently and then go, oh, hey, there's that thing that happened there. And then, I don't know. That's kind of boring to me. I don't know who would watch that.
So I agree. Plus, I don't care about what the other people pick unless they pick somebody I want.
Which is going to happen. There's probably 19 of those that might happen. Maybe.
It won't be 19 in front of us because I won't want all of them.
Yeah. You just tried to take all of them, though. That was the thing.
I tried.
I don't know. How many picks did you have? We had like 16 picks in the top 50 or something from the mock draft insanity. Folks, if you hadn't seen that, go back a week ago, watch the mock draft insanity. Absolutely crazy. No one mocked my typos, though. I accidentally put 2021 in some spots, and nobody paid attention to that. So thank you for not doing that to me. I totally appreciate it. So until next time, folks, my name's Joe, and his name is Brian E. Roach, the host who doesn't like toast. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We encourage all of our listeners out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.